Good afternoon. Now, they've asked me to come here today to tell you a little bit about myself. But I'm not real big on talking about me. But I'll do the best I can. But I thought what I'd do is I'd like to know a little bit about what you already know about me. So if you could raise your hand, tell me what you know about Abraham Lincoln. I can't talk while you're talking. I was on the penny. I am on the penny. I'm on the $5 bill. I had 4 sons. I was the 16th president. I helped to end slavery. I didn't do it all by myself, but I at least got the ball rolling a little bit. I got shot in the head. I was born on February 12th, 1809. So about a month and a half ago, I had a birthday, and I turned 200 years old. Now, I think I look pretty good for 200, don't you? Anybody know where I was born? Kentucky. Very good, young man. A lot of people thought I was born in Illinois because that's where people first became aware of me, is when I was living there. And I lived there for 24 years. But I was actually born in Kentucky. Now, I want you to understand a few things about how things are changed since then. Now, back then, you have to remember that 95% of the people that lived in this country lived within 50 miles of the Atlantic Ocean. And there were very few of us that lived as far west as Kentucky. When my father and my grandfather first came to Kentucky, they were out planting a field one day when they were attacked by Indians. And my father had to watch while my grandfather was killed by those Indians. And it hadn't gotten a whole lot better by the time I came along. See, one of the things that happened to me is I grew up real fast. I got real big in a real short period of time. I grew real tall. I was always taller than the other boys. Had great big hands, great big feet, big ears, a big nose. People used to call me string bean, bean pole, stuff like that. You know how it is when you're different. People, they tease you. But I could tell stories. My father was a storyteller, and so was I. I told stories my whole life. And I could get people laughing so hard, they'd be rolling around on the ground, holding onto their sides because they were laughing so hard. You ever laugh so hard that your sides hurt? Well, that's what I was able to do. So they can make fun of me all they wanted to. They could make fun of me all they wanted to because I could get back at them by telling stories. Kentucky was a slave state. You all know about slavery? Yes. Right, it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. There were slaves in ancient Egypt and slaves in Rome. Now, there's been some real wrong-headed ideas that have come around in this world that we live in. Like that one where people used to think that the earth was flat. And that if you sailed far enough out in the ocean, you'd fall off the edge of the world. It sounds funny, doesn't it? But people believed it. And they were wrong. And they were wrong about slavery, too. It took them a little bit longer to realize it, but they were wrong. Just because a person has different colored skin than you do, just because they think a different way, they live a different way, they believe in different things, that doesn't give you the right to think that you can buy and sell those people. And it certainly doesn't give you the right to think that you can enslave them and make them do things that you don't want to do yourself. See, the world had never seen anything like we have here. It didn't exist anywhere else. Democracy and the kind of freedom that we have here. And to let slavery tear that apart so that it disappeared off the face of the earth. I couldn't let that happen. So I tried to talk to those people in the South. They hated me. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. They were afraid I was going to try and take their slaves away from them. And they had had slaves for so many generations, they couldn't imagine their lives without them. So when I was elected president, the state of South Carolina said, that's it. If he's going to be president, we're leaving the United States and we're going to form our own country called the Confederate States of America. And 10 other states went with them. It was illegal what they were trying to do. You can't leave the United States. And I tried to talk to them some more, and they wouldn't talk. Now, I had a little tiny fort down there off the coast of South Carolina called Fort Sumter. It wasn't real important or anything, but they wanted me to give it over to them. And I said no, because if I would have given them that fort, it would have been like my recognizing the fact that they were a separate entity, a separate country. And all I ever thought of those states as were rebel states that were at war with the Union. They weren't a separate country. That's what that whole war was all about. See, because when I tried to send food and water to my soldiers in that fort, the militia from South Carolina fired on my men. And when my men fired back, that was the start of the Civil War. One of the other things I used to do is I'd go to the hospital and I'd visit my wounded soldiers and try and boost up their morale a little bit. And I remember one time I visited the hospital there in Washington, D.C. And I walked down the aisle, and it was nothing but bed after bed after bed after bed of these horribly wounded men. And I got down to the end of the aisle, and there was this young boy there. And he was hurt real bad. In fact, I didn't know how much more time he had. And I asked him, what can I do for you? And he said, I wanted to write a letter home to my ma and pa. So I pulled up a chair, and I got a piece of paper and a pen, and I took down his words for him. And I signed my name at the bottom. And then I turned the piece of paper around for him to read it so that he could see that I'd written exactly what he had told me. And when his eyes got down to the bottom, they got real big. And he said, are you the president? And I said, yes, I am. Now, what else can I do for you? And he said, I'm scared. Can you just sit here with me for a while? So I held that boy's hand until he died. So that finally, on April 9th, 1865, in a place called Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia, their general, Robert E. Lee, surrendered to my general, Ulysses S. Grant. And that war was over. Now, only one good thing ever came out of that war. I got to sign a piece of paper called the Emancipation Proclamation. And what it said was, all you states who are at war with the United States, your slaves are now free. But it wasn't until January of 1865 that Congress finally ratified the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and it outlawed slavery everywhere in the United States. My name's Joe Kilpatrick. I'm an actor, and this is what I do. I go around to schools like this, and I talk to people like you. And for 45 minutes or so, we go on a little journey together. And I have the great privilege of being able to portray this incredible man. It's also an honor for me to be able to do this for you and with you. And I just want to say thank you for your patience, thank you for your attention, and thank you very much for having me come here today. Thank you. Thank you.